Okay. We're waiting on some last few minute documents. We'll go ahead and call Marshall County Fiscal Court to order July 17th, 2018. First under guest, Randy Green, Marshall County Sanitation Chairman. Randy here. Good morning, sir.
Morning, Judge. Court, how you doing today?
Good.
I'm gonna make this real short, believe it or not. We had our special call meeting yesterday evening with our board. As you know, we're advising on who we would like to award the contract on our expansion to. It was, I think you've got copies of our minutes. It was a unanimous decision for Mertco. And that's our recommendation to the fiscal court.
Did y'all get a copy of this?
Yes.
The item that we're going to be discussing today is obviously the contract. I see Chad here from Rivercrest. The bids on that project. Y'all should have the information there in front of you.
This that we just got?
Yes.
Isn't that a sanitation board decision, their project, or is it our decision?
For what?
To award the contract?
Well, I mean, we're holding the purse on this project.
I understand that part of it.
I would think that they would have influence on the decision, yes.
I was under the impression that they had to play by the rules that any agreements that we had.
Well, if you look at
That's good.
if you look at what was presented to Rivercrest, you've got Mertco Utility Service and Youngblood Excavating and Contracting as the two contractors. Basically, today we just need to pick one. The Sanitation District's recommendation is Mertco. The decision for us to choose the contractor is our responsibility.
Randy, if you would just kind of tell the court why the board voted the way they did.
Well, there is a spread between the bids, quite a spread, but we've had experience with both contractors. We've used both of them in the past in our districts, and just past experience is the main reason that we're happy with Mertco. I had 3 of my 4 board members were there, and like I said, it was a unanimous decision with them. Without getting into a lot of detail, it's based on past experience and quality workmanship and timely work. And we're behind on our project now, getting started, and we need to get this thing going. And like I said, it's the board's choice that this is the contractor for the job.
And we are, I know KIA sent as far as the funding, we were approved in February. KIA, I think the last communication was June, asking what the status was on this project. So I think this is long overdue. You've got the information in front of you. We've heard from the district. I would make a motion that we accept Mertco as the contractor for this project.
I have no problem with that, Judge. I know there's some differences here, but I also know we've had some issues in the past. And you're making that motion, Judge, or you need a motion? That's your motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
We'll do a roll call. Commissioner Gold.
Just before you do that, Judge, Randy mentioned the delay issues. How many days delay was it with the other bidder in this case?
On this project.
Not the other project.
Okay, the past project with Youngblood, I think, last court before, you discussed liquidated damages for a 70-day delay, over contracted period.
That's correct.
Mhm. Yeah, the project that I was referring to was when we got the funding in February from KIA. So I want to make sure that that's clear. There's two different projects, the 70-day delinquent project in Aurora, but then this project, I think the anticipated date was April. Is that right, Chad? We were to go to work in April. So we are behind on this project. Commissioner Boland? Commissioner Cox?
Aye.
All ayes have it. Any questions? Okay.
I do have one thing to add to this. We all know that we were involved with also taking in the school in this project, taking over their failing plant. And just on a time restraint, we have problems getting together. We've worked with the school for a couple of years now, I guess, Judge. And came to the point where we were actual days away from the first initial bid opening. And the school had brought in BFW, their engineers, and they'd started changing alignments, questioning what we were doing. And we were advised then it'd be at least a year before they would be anywhere near ready to start on the project. We were funded first of the year. We should have started in April. So basically what we did is we went to a Plan B. We acquired new easement to take our lift station off of school property onto private property, and we were donated easement for that. And went to Plan B, realigned just a little bit, picked up more customers. We were able to extend a little further by doing what we did. But the school is by no means, I want the court to know, the school is by no means out of this project. This bid reflects not only our original construction with taking in the school system, but it also reflects the change order that we had to do. So at any time, while we're on this project, the school is more than welcome when they can decide what they want to do and are ready to adhere to our master plan, phases 1 through 5. We're ready for them. It's not like we said, no, you're not ready, so you can't get on. We just had to move. So we went to a Plan B and went ahead and started our construction. But we're ready tomorrow, next week, next year. Whenever the school is ready to come with us, they're more than welcome to come. We just couldn't wait anymore. We didn't have a year to wait.
And to point out, there's another project, the 319H funds, what we all call Maggie's monies. That project, I believe the district just bid,
Right.
and I believe Merco won that project. So what that project is, if you remember, there were about 10 residents that, with our new ordinance, sanitation ordinance, those residents, there is service available for them to go ahead and tap into.
Exactly.
So we're partnering with those 319 funds to where we can get those 10 residents hooked on to the sanitation district as well. So there's two projects going on in the district right now.
Right. That's actually was meant to happen earlier.
Yeah.
We were going to use that as 12 houses. We were going to use that as a pilot program for what you call Maggie's money that will also affect this expansion too. And we wanted to run through these 12 first and kind of get our feet wet. And nothing happens fast. So as luck would have it, they're both hitting within days of each other. Wouldn't have it any other way. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it, I guess.
But you have the high school certainly being the main issue, but the Christian Fellowship.
That's the problem. That's what I regret most. We all do, is we were going to cross the school and run up 68 and catch Christian Fellowship because we know that they're having problems. They need it bad. And by not being able to acquire the easements and get this coordinated with the school, I mean, after all the meetings we've had, I'll be honest with you, I was pretty disgusted with it because we had worked and worked and worked and thought we were going to provide this service. And then we start reinventing the wheel at the 11th hour and where there's no need. Everything's laid out plain and simple. But at this point, I do regret not being able to get to Christian Fellowship and some of the other residents up through there. If we can't get her across country, we'll back up and come up the other road. I mean, we'll get there. As money allows and as the court allows, we will get to them, but that's the one that I really regret the most, is we're having to leave them hanging out there because we couldn't get the issue settled with the school and get started.
But let me make sure I understand this. Marshall County High School is not involved in the project as it stands right now?
As it stands today, no, sir.
Isn't that our biggest customer in this project?
They would
And
be.
also, does not that, we need that water, those flushes, those bugs in our system?
There was a day when we needed them bad. Today, as our plant's running, I don't need another customer to make our plant work.
We do financially.
Well, financially, of course, but you're talking about the bugs and getting everything flushing.
I'm
As far as
talking about
making
the whole picture.
As far as making the plant operate, we're operating fine today. The more flow, the better. We've always said that, and it's true. And we do need that. We need the school. But it's not, the school won't stop us from operating or continuing with our projects, what I meant to say. The income would be great. The flow would be great. Like I said, we just went to Plan B and picked up additional households and to try to make up some of that flow. And I think we'll be fine in that direction. But the school's not out of the project. They're included in this bid today. It's a matter of them getting their ducks in a row and deciding to come to us. I mean, we're sitting there with open arms saying, here we are. And it was delay, and we couldn't wait any longer.
Financially, they are by far the biggest player in this whole thing.
Yeah, certainly they are. They are. And also financially, I won't get into it today, but I think you're aware that we established a rate adjustment committee by ordinance sometime back earlier in the year.
I was at the meeting.
Yeah.
Commissioner Bowles and I were at the meeting.
Right. We had our final meeting last week, and we do have our new rates established. We've got just a little bit of tweaking to do left on it, but we do have our rates set, are established and ready to set. As soon as we get everything done like we want it, we'll be notifying all the customers. But
Will that rate allow you all to be self-sufficient?
that rate's going to allow us to pay our bills, shelve some money for maintenance and breakdowns, and also open the road to a payback to.
Hey, what about, will it
Pay
enable
the
you all to
salaries?
pay the salaries of your
That's what we're
employees that
looking at.
we're paying? That rate adjustment is satisfactory to take those employees that we're paying on your all's behalf and let you all pay them?
It's not a magic wand.
No, I just asked.
To quote you, it's not easy, but
Right.
what we've done is we've ensured that we're going to have the income to look at doing this in the very near future. My first concern was, of course, to operate, and the board's second concern was to be able to start a payback on the monies that we're using from court. But this rate increase that has been proposed is not going to make you self-sufficient. Pay your own employees that the county are paying on your behalf right now. well, yes, it is.
All
All those factors have been considered.
Okay,
I'm not
that's
ready-
good.
I'm not ready to tell you, standing here, right here today, that next week we're gonna start cutting a check for everything. It's not the easy button. It's
Understand
an
that.
option, and it's something that, like I said, my rate committee is some pretty intelligent men. And they did.
I've talked with them individually
You
and
met
went to visit
Sean
with them.
and Tom and Jerry and Royce, and
Right.
I've got a lot of respect for them. They put a lot of work in this. Sean wrote a computer program where we could punch in numbers, and it's above me. I mostly just know possums and sawdust.
It's not
but
above
it's-
him, he's good at what he does.
He's very good at what he does. But I can't promise the world today as far as, yes, we're going to pay this and this and this and this and this. We've got to get these rates set, make sure we're comfortable with what we've got, and get on an even keel, which we're pretty much close to that now. But the financial aspect's gonna look really, really good for us, I think, and, like I said, we still got a little tweaking to do.
Be a big savings for the county if you can get those salaries through the water rates.
Sure it would.
I think they should reflect that, the
Yeah.
operation of doing business instead of just keep losing money, and I think that's very important, but
Well, when you set these rates, you can charge whatever you want to. But there comes a point in time, somebody's got to answer for that too. And I expect probably to be burnt out anyway when we get our new rates out. Some people's going to be really happy with it, I can promise you that. I gave the task to our rate committee. I said, I want to lower the flat rate for all residential. And I want to increase our income well over $100,000. So cut the price and make more money. That's what they had to do. And they have. It's a fair rate, and it's based on usage. The more you use, the more it costs. The ones that's putting the loads on the plant are the ones that's going to be paying more. And that's just an overhead for business. So, if we couldn't raise our rates, let me ask you this. If we couldn't raise our rates, but we still got to operate our plant on current income with no more customers, and we couldn't pay our employees, what would you do? What would you do?
that's a problem that has been in existence for a long time.
Exactly right.
Time after time with that particular sanitation district too, as it's known.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, we as representatives of the taxpayers we represent are footing the bill for the entire project and also paying the employees there. And as a business person, you cannot continue to spend more money than you take in.
You can't borrow yourself
And
out
by
of debt,
adjusting the rates have to be adjusted. You can stand it for a little while, and obviously this body wants to help the sanitation districts. And I'm a little concerned that Marshall County High School is not a player in this. They were a major player in this. And and I don't think they're just jumping through the hoops that they have to jump through.
That's not necessarily so. I've said it on so many of the meetings.
I think it's necessarily so.
It's the fact that we couldn't get answers. The players have changed, the game's changed on us, and I mean, we're down to, with the school, we got to the point of days, literally within 3 or 4 days of opening our bid on the contract, and new engineers show up and want to change alignments. I mean, that's not being prepared. That's not being ready when you've known for 2 years it's coming. It wasn't a surprise to anybody. And like I said, we should have been turning dirt in April. Here it is July. Awarding this contract, it's going to be end August, 1st September, and we're putting these contractors out there in the wintertime. We couldn't wait anymore because we need this income, just like you said. We need the income to pay our bills, and we've got to do it. We've got to get customers. That customer was not ready to commit, so we went to Plan B and picked up other customers. We did what we had to do in the best interest of our district and this court. And as far as the rates set to pay back, the first thing on my mind, or my board's mind, is to make a payback to this court, because this is money that's been borrowed. It's got to be paid back. They can't, any of us, sit and do the numbers, and you know how long it's going to take to pay it back, but we've got to do something. We'll start paying. And also, as far as the setting the rates to do the employees, the money's going to be there, but we've got to get this. We've got to get these funds in and get established and get our budget set with these funds, knowing what we've got.
What you're doing right now is going to be is reflective of not having the school. Exactly. And if the school hooks up, then
it'll be that much better. And
things change.
We're absolutely ready tomorrow. If school wanted to commit tomorrow, we're ready to go. And if not, we're fine with our project. We'll move on. But like I said, we've got to get these funds in, get them worked in our budget. And the thing is, we look to double our flow without the school, but it's going to be February at least before this project's completed. Then we got to start tying on houses. They're not tapped on. So you're looking at a year away from tapping houses to these and actually getting flow back to our plant. And it's also based on projected numbers of new customers there's lots available, people moving in, getting ready. There's a lot of figures went into it. But I can't tell you tomorrow you're going to get all of your money for the employees and the loan. It's not there, but I can tell you that some really intelligent people have put the numbers together and said this is going to work. We've just got to let it go and grow and give it time. And the thing is, we're moving forward. We're not sitting still or moving backward. And that makes a big difference to me. I'm proud of what we've done.
Randy, let me ask you something, just to clarify some things. Do you or your board members get compensation?
Zero.
You're
We
doing
do
this,
not.
you're doing this for no reimbursement?
No, sir.
The board, most,
I've got to admit, I did get a raise last year. They doubled my salary. And that makes it 2 zeros. So, no, we're not getting anything, no compensation, nothing.
and I know that this is, has been a complex situation from where it has come from, and to have citizens like yourself step up without compensation just because you know it's important for our community, I think the answer to your question would be yes. If we couldn't pay, the fiscal court would step in and help.
Thank you.
Chad, do you want to say something? I saw you come up here.
Is there any more questions for me, guys? I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
I just wanted to address the addition of the school or the perceived lack of the school being a part of this project. As part of the redesign was performed to allow the project to function if the school decides not to come on to the project. With the original lift station site being on the school property, without the easements from the school, the project would not be able to function because all the flows tributary to that lift station would not be able to hook onto the sewer. So the major component of that redesign was to move the lift station off the school property so that in the event, if the school decides not to tie on right now, the project can still function as its own entity, so to speak. The design and the bid package that was presented to the contractors includes all the lines through the Marshall County High School property and the line across Highway 68 to Christian Fellowship. And we actually coordinated and had a meeting with the contractors, and the contractors have agreed to hold their bid prices for 90 days from the award of the contract. So if the school decides to grant the easements within those 90 days, those bid unit prices will be applied, and then the contractor will be allowed to go ahead and build the sewer lines across that property. So we actually, from the time of the award, there's actually a 90-day window. If the school decides to grant those easements, then the project will flow on just as it's bid, and the contractor will complete the entire project scope as it's in the bid package across the
The high
school
school will
property.
have to agree then before Christian Fellowship could, it'd be feasible for
Yes,
them to hook up.
that is accurate. Christian Fellowship's connection would not be able to be made without the high school's easements being secured. But the way the project has been set up, the high school is very much a part of the project. It would just be a deduct from the total contract if the school decides not to come on during the contract period. After the 90-day window, the contractors would be allowed to adjust their material prices if they wanted to. But that was a stipulation that the contractors needed us to put on the contract, that they would only hold the prices for 90 days because of the volatility in the material market right now. But the school is very much part of the project, and everyone understands at this point, if they come on within 90 days and are willing to grant the easements, then everything will flow.
The bid price doesn't change then.
Bid price doesn't
They
change.
come on in 90
The scope of
days.
work that they bid doesn't change at all, and the project flows on
Good.
just like normal. But as of this point, as we stand today, the school is definitely not out of it. There's just a 90-day stipulation with the bids for holding those unit prices across the school property. And if they decide not to tap on right now, the project can still function without their connection right now. So just want to make sure that was clear.
Thank you.
everybody involved here. But the bid prices do include all the work on the school property at this time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it, Chad. Thank you. Next on their guest is Marshall County Industrial Development Authority Board for Southwest One, Dennis Smith. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How's the court this morning?
Good.
Thank you.
I didn't even recognize Josh, so
Got the fresh haircut, didn't he?
get ready to go.
Judge and Fiscal Court, thank you for letting us be here this morning. We also have two more board members from the Marshall County Industrial Development Authority with us, and that's Elena Blevins and Brian Smothers. So they're here in the audience as well. Our purpose for being here this morning is just to update the court on where the newly formed Marshall County Industrial Development Authority is and what the status of our group is at this point. And I see that you put the Southwest One Park conceptual master plan up on the viewing screen. So if anyone's not familiar with that, this is out kind of across from the new South Marshall Middle School, approximately 300 acres that we're trying to recruit, develop, and get a good, decent industrial development park in this county. So that's our purpose for being here. And I wanted to say that we have 7 board members. Those include Mac McDonald, Elena Blevins, Brian Smothers, Treston Smith, George Long, Ben Leonard, and myself. We had our organizational meeting on January 11th of this year. We meet bi-monthly or more often as needed. The bylaws have been written, approved, and adopted by our board. We have obtained a tax ID number. We have banking services in place. We went out for bids, got local banking representation, and have those in place. We have fiduciary bonds and liability insurance for our group so that we think that we've got every angle covered that we know to cover at this point. We've applied for grants, both matching funds and revolving and other funding sources that are potentially available. So in short, we believe we're now set up to be in the business of acquiring, retaining, developing land for industrial and commercial purposes in Marshall County, including aiding in the development and promotion of industrial sites, parks, and subdivisions to meet industrial and commercial needs in our area. I don't want to paraphrase Donald Trump, but jobs, jobs, jobs. That's what we're looking for this county to help in the development of it. So our vision at this point is, with this 300 acres up there, there's currently a real estate option that's held in the Fiscal Court's name with the property owners. So our vision is to get that real estate option transferred or assigned to the Industrial Development Authority so that we can get that piece of property under one ownership, get this executed, and start promoting this park. It's a great piece of property because it's one owner, one tract. So that makes it more valuable. It's on West Kentucky Rural Electric, which is TVA power. Again, a big plus for industrial development. So if we can get the funding that we've applied for, some matching grants, and we feel really good about some of these coming to pass here in August and September, maybe even, Josh, later this month in July on a couple of them, then we would like to put it in your mind, the court's mind, to get that option put over into the Industrial Development Authority's name. After we get these funds that we've applied for the grants, assuming that we get them, we've gone out and looked at CAECO, and potentially we're going to look at some local banks for actually doing the financing to purchase that property and exercise that option. And that could happen as early as August or September this year. Some of the possible funding sources, I know that's on your minds. Purchase Regional Park Grant, Marshall County Industrial Development Authority, which I believe the Fiscal Court has already funded for that. The City County Industrial Development Authority. There's some PACRO funds available to us. There's some TVA in lieu of taxes funds available to us. There's a TVA Invest Prep grant that we've applied for. That's the one we should hear, Josh, hopefully the end of this week. And then there's some Delta Regional Authority monies available that we believe we're going to have a really good shot at getting as well. So some of those funds are grants, and there's also some revolving funds, which would include the Purchase Regional Park Grant and the TVA in lieu of taxes, and then the Southwest One Farm Income monies that come in off of that piece of property. So that's where our status is, that's our vision, and with that, I'd entertain any questions for myself or Josh or the other board members. If none, that's our report.
Dennis.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Dennis.
Very good.
Thank you, Josh. I see Dave Burnt sitting here, and I apologize. I told Dave I was going to put him on the agenda, and I failed to put him on the agenda. So I would ask the court to accept Dave. He was wanting to come and talk about the Who Festival that's going to be coming up in September.
Yes.
That'd be fine? Dave? Good morning, sir.
This is the Who Festival literature. The Who Festival is a combination between our Marshall County Park District and the Friendly Park River. And last year, we put on the Who Festival. It's the first time. There's 3 young ladies that work on this thing. And they did a great job, and now this is going to be the second one. And so I'd like to ask the board if they would do a gold sponsorship to help the Who Festival along. Last year on Friday, before the festival, they had all the 3rd graders to an environmental site where they had all these different programs, plus the Exceptional Center was invited and they came. So we had all the 3rd graders in Marshall County, plus in the Exceptional Center. They put on they had these sites where these kids would go and see the different things happening. And it was very interesting. We had beehives, where they were split and they could see the queen bees. It was all environmental. And then we had the festival on Saturday. So this year, the festival is on September 22nd. That's a Saturday. And they'll have, like they did last year with all the different things. We've also went on the Park District and planted a 6/10 of an acre of pumpkins. So we envision having a tractor, and an old hay wagon, and all the kids that come will be able to go out to the pumpkin patch and pick a pumpkin, good Lord willing, and they all grow. The music this year will be provided by the choir from Marshall County High School. We have 2 seniors at the Marshall County High School that are going to perform. We have Jamie and Jenny Jameson will be performing, and we'll probably pick up another couple from Marshall County to entertain. And what the funds do, that allows us to provide more services and more things for the kids. So it's a great thing. If you haven't been out there, you really need to come. The idea is to get the people out to enjoy the Park District and all the things that they've added there and the new bicycle trails that they're working on and stuff like that, and to get people outside to do things. So we were hoping that maybe the board would give us a gold sponsorship, and that's what I'm asking.
And the gold
That's what
sponsor.
we did last year, gold sponsor. Didn't we do that last year?
I honestly don't know, because I wasn't involved in the fundraising last year.
I think last year we provided the park and some park personnel as part of our contribution, but not any funds.
The gold sponsor is $1,000, and I think we had budgeted remaining. So there are some dollars remaining if we want to use those dollars. I'll move to make a motion to use 1,000 out of the budgeted dollars to support the Who Festival.
Second?
Commissioner Gold, we'll take a vote. Commissioner Gold,
Aye.
Commissioner Boland, Commissioner Cox.
Yes.
The ayes have it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, by the way, if you're running for office and you'd also like to have a sponsorship, there's applications on the back of this form. Thank you.
See you, Dave. We need to, if we can, jump to executive session. I know we have some members that have to leave, so we entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Make that motion, Judge.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. We'll go ahead and call Fiscal Court back to order with the information that was discussed in executive session regarding Jonathan Smith, who's a county employee but works for the Sanitation District. The Sanitation District is going to, they looked at doing their own billing and outsourcing their billing. They found that if they outsourced their billing, the cost would be greater. I think the figures were $6,000 to $7,000. Currently, they're paying the treasurer, secretary to do the books at $300 a month. And so the request was to continue doing it inside or in-house with Jonathan, but to increase his rate of pay by $2 an hour. And I think the district would have a savings if they stayed in-house. So with that information that was heard from the chairman of the district, is there a motion to move for Jonathan Smith to have a $2 pay increase?
So moved.
Commissioner Gold, we'll go ahead and vote.
Aye.
Commissioner Boland, Commissioner Cox.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Motion carries. I noticed we got some people that need to get to work. I'm going to look down here on the agenda. We've got the announcement. Where are we at here? The ordinance. Ordinance 2018-08, waste management. The second reading, public announcement. We need to set a public hearing for that, for the second reading. What date? Let's see, our next fiscal court meeting is the 7th. Do we want to set that before? We've done that before, haven't we? Set it before and then took action. Do we want to set that on the 7th?
That'll be fine.
Do we want to do it at 10 o'clock? I think that's what we've done in the past.
Recess and.
Recess
Yeah.
at 10.
Fine with me.
Okay.
That's
And
August the 7th?
August the 7th.
Right.
Correct. And then I see, with that waste management, I see Dan Seals is here. Dan, do you got any comments on, for Waste Path?
Yes, I do, Judge.
Step up there, please.
Judge, Commissioner Gold, Commissioner Boland, and Commissioner Cock, I appreciate y'all working with us on this, working with you from the landfill. There's been a lot of conversations in the paper, on the news, and so forth about the landfill in Marshall County. And I'd just like to make a statement here, let you all know a little bit about us and our operations. Maybe we're not known as well in the county as we should be. I am myself a 30-year Marshall County resident. I'm the managing member of the Waste Path Landfill, and I'm very much proud to be a Marshall Countian and have over the years believe we have been good neighbors within the county. One of my other partners, Joy Hubbs O'Connell, has been a Marshall County resident most her life, and her mother, if you recall, ran Judy's over there on Highway 68 little restaurant, fishing minute place. So she too is very much a Marshall Countyan and wants to do the things proper and whatever needs to be for Marshall County. And our third partner at the landfill is not a Marshall Countyan, but he understands what it is to run and operate a regulated business, and he is very much in tune with us following the law and working with the Kentucky Department of Environmental Protection, because at one time he owned and operated a 60-bed nursing home, which is very, very highly regulated, and he knows what it is to get crossways or not get crossways. So we want to continue and will continue to operate as best we can. This group of us purchased Waste Path from a previous owner in 2005, and we've operated the landfill during that whole time. We've always stayed in touch with the county about what we were doing, although when we would meet with Judge Miller and so forth, I think it came up at least one time that we might need a new host agreement, but never did get taken care of. So we still need to get that host agreement done, and we're working on that with the parties involved to get us a host agreement. We did request an expansion to the landfill in 2010 or 11. I didn't get the exact date. It was granted by the Fiscal Court, and there have been some bumps along the way with the Kentucky Department of Environmental Protection, but I don't know anybody that has dealt with any of the Kentucky authorities that you have bumps along the way, but we've made every effort to make those respond to their request. We've invested the money necessary to do that, and we've corrected all problems and issues that were noted with those as well. One of the predecessors that I knew was a part of this way back before we got involved. His motto was very adversarial with the regulators. Our motto is to work with the regulators, not oppose them on anything, and make things right as we go along, and that's what we've always done. I don't know how much you want to know, but to understand the current issues that we're having and some of the questions that has come up, it's necessary to understand the construction progress of a landfill sale. And by the way, a 3-acre landfill sale will cost you about $1.3 million if you want to build one. So that's the reason why the tipping fee at the landfill is getting higher and higher, because of the construction cost and the cost to properly dispose of solid waste in the landfill. The first thing that you do is you excavate the dirt and soil that is there, and you take it down to the depth required by the engineering drawings. Then the cell bottom is covered with 2 foot of compacted clay and tested very similar to what you would in constructing a road, county road bed or whatever. There's certain compaction ratios called proctors that must be met and tested by an outside third-party inspector. There are a minimum of 9 samples per acre per layer, and the clay is placed down in 4 different layers, with each layer being compacted and tested. This purpose of compacting this is to slow or prevent leachate from seeping into the groundwater. Once the clay has been compacted and everything is ready, there's a proof roll done on it and making sure that it has reached its compaction level, and that's approved by the Kentucky Department of Environmental Protection Solid Waste Division. We do all of our work through the Solid Waste Division, and they are the ones who inspect us and enforce us and make sure everything is running properly. The liner system is then installed on the clay. The first layer of the liner is a combination 60 mil plastic liner with a layer of bentonite clay underneath that. It's sort of attached together in one layer when it goes down. The 60 mil plastic is to contain the leachate, and then the bentonite layer under there is a backup layer, so if it's accidentally hole punched in it or something from a steel rod or 2x4 or something, then that bentonite will get wet and seal off and keep the leachate from leaching out into the ground. Typically, the bottom is designed on a 3-acre cell with 3 valleys that function, that give you a starting point to start building up the slopes in the landfill. But in the bottom of those valleys, piping is placed in which carries the leachate, or the water that leaches through the waste from rain and so forth, that goes into the sump area, and then it's pumped to a holding site for pre-treatment. And a layer of GeoNet synthetic fabric cloth is then placed over the piping to filter out the solids and to allow the leachate to get to the sump area to be pumped out. And in our situation, because we're in a floodplain area, we have to build a berm around the open cell, which is constructed to 350 feet mean sea level around the cell. That prevents floodwaters from entering and to contain any excess rainwater that might fall during that time. In addition to that, there is a series of groundwatering monitoring wells placed around the permitted landfill space, and these are quarterly monitored of the underground water. Samples are taken. The old wells have been installed since the late 80s by the previous owner. They had reached their useful life based on today's standards, so at the request of the Kentucky Department of Environmental Protection, we have installed all new wells in the amount of $96,000 under the direction of a third-party geologist. We use a third-party engineering firm to take the samples, process the required reports to Kentucky Department of Environmental Solid Waste Division, and the data from these samples is charted in a computer system, maintained, and tracked to see and note changes from quarter to quarter to quarter to make sure that everything is clean, or no significant changes or no leachate or anything is migrating from the landfill. And you notice several times in this conversation I've mentioned third party, third party, third party. We always use third party because if we do it in-house, there's always question on whether we did it right, whether we were cheating, whether we were not doing it properly. So we always use this third-party engineering, third-party testing labs, send them off to labs. Therefore, there's no question as to whether or not the results are accurate or not. So it's to make sure that everything is proper and above board. In February of this year, there was a rainfall, 2 different large rainfalls. One was for 9.8 inches, another one for 8.7 inches, and all of that fell in about 13 days. That unexpected amount of rain, spring, caused conditions that resulted in the KDEP, as we refer to it, issuing a notice of violation to Waste Path for excess rainwater in the cell. Now, an NOV or an NOD is a standard operating procedure for enforcement of any non-compliant issue. The notice of violation or the notice of deficiency. There were preventive measures within the cell to keep the rainwater and the leachate from mixing, but they failed because of the large amount of the rain that mixed with the leachate in the landfill. Therefore, it forces us then to treat all of that rainwater and treat it as if it is leachate, even though it is very, very diluted because of the amount of rain that keeps falling in there. In the cell that we're working in, we've only been in it for a short while, so Valley B and Valley C does not have any waste placed in them at this time. So all the water that has accumulated there makes it look like a lake. The GeoNet synthetic fabric cloth, being on top, being very lightweight, has floated to the surface and causing people who look at it to think the 60 mil liner has floated. The liner is anchored in place so it won't float. We have waited in the shallow sectors and are convinced the 60 mil liner is in place, and then once the water is removed, we will walk the bottom with the KDAP solid waste personnel and verify the liner is in compliance before placing waste in the valley. If it's not in compliance, we'll have to spend the money to fix it or do whatever before we put waste on it. Like I said, the water and leachate there is very diluted, but it is being pumped daily to our wastewater treatment plant. We have a pre-treatment plant that we installed. That was installed back a couple of years ago, which was again at a request of the Kentucky Department of Environmental Protection of how to dispose properly of leachate. So we pre-treat it. We then pump it directly in the sewer system to Calvert City, PTOW, and we have a permit with them, and their permit is monitored by Calvert and also by the state and to make sure that our BODs, CODs, ammonia, and solids in that waste meets pre-treated standards before it goes into the Calvert City treatment system, which is then pre-treated again. Continue to be treated until it's disposed of properly along with the other waste from Calvert City. The state has been fully informed of the conditions and waste pass efforts, including conducting weekly inspections, monitoring our efforts to remedy the conditions that resulted in the NOV. They come by monthly and do that. Just to quickly close, WastePath takes its environmental responsibilities seriously and will continue to manage its operations and take steps to remain in full compliance with all environmental laws. And thank you for letting me make this statement, but I also want all of you to know here that we are doing our best to work with the judge, to work with the 109 board, and to get the host agreement in place, and we need to start working on a 3-year process of expanding the landfill to the west of the existing landfill so that we can provide services to the county, to the plants in Calvert City, and to outside sources that depend on us for disposing of the waste within the laws of the state of Kentucky. So thanks, Judge. And
Appreciate it, Dan. I know we're very familiar with NOVs, maybe not from the EPA, but the Department of Water. We've been getting NOVs for years. You can go out and talk to the Friends of Chestnut Creek, how we were contaminating that creek. I think it was our permit requirement, just like you operate under a permit. Our permit requirement was, I believe, 300 parts per million for E. coli. And the Friends of Chestnut Creek were sampling up to 25,000 parts per million, so we were contaminating the creek. Today, I can tell you with everything that you do, you follow the recommendations from the Department of Water. They are within their permit regarding E. coli. So I get it, I understand. I appreciate you clarifying what the NOV was. I know that there were some people in my office that live in that area, you know, from what the media, WPSC put out there, that the water was contaminated. So that helps them understand more detail as far as what Waste Path is doing. So I appreciate that.
None of the samples that we've taken from our groundwater monitoring wells show any indication of any problems or anything with the groundwater that is coming from the landfill. And so I could say a lot more about today's reporting, but I won't.
Sure.
So there's no reason to get into that. But I do want to, and I know we're working together to try to get the host agreement done, and also to
Well, and the good thing is
get the
that,
expansion going so that we can, it's a 3-year process with that expansion. You have to file an NOI, and when that NOI is complete and ready, we will bring it back to the Fiscal Court, present it to you, and then you all will approve it, and then that NOI will be sent to the state of Kentucky for their going through it and all that sort of stuff. And then there's another phase once that approved, that's called the administrative phase, and then that takes time to get that done. And then the third step is the technical phase, which is all the drawings and all the way it's built and constructed and all of that. So it's about a 3-year process, and we use Ken Virons as our engineering firm to do all of that work for us. And it's a long step, but we will. Once we get all the details on the NI, I think it has to come back before the court to be approved, so.
correct. Okay.
All right, and we're also happy to be working with you on changing the fee from the 2% to the 5 and 5.25% to work with you all in the county on that as well, so.
Yes, I think that's something that we can do in our positions to help in the overall big picture with school security and the sheriff's department. So
Okay.
I appreciate that.
All right. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? I'm available.
Thank you. We'll jump back up under correspondence. Personnel changes. Melissa Curry, new full-time employee, county attorney clerk, hire date June 1st at $14,932.80 a year. Donna Youngblood, new part-time employee at the jail, hire dates June 8th this year at $15 an hour. Chad Ford, new full-time employee at the road department as a laborer, hire date June 1st this year at $17 an hour. Nicholas Spears, new full-time employee at the Sheriff's Department, hire date June 18th this year at $20.40 an hour as a base pay. Brandon Little, new part-time employee at the Sheriff's Office, court security, hire date June 4th this year at $9 an hour. Kurt Little, new seasonal employee, road department, hire date June 26th this year at $12 an hour. Roger Youngblood, seasonal road department, voluntary resignation effective June 20th of this year. Charles Moreland, new part-time employee, sheriff's office, court security, hire date June 25th of this year at $9 an hour. And Brenda Mason, judicial janitor, retired June 30th of this year. Under correspondence, the Merriman House had sent a letter. They are not renewing their lease. They are moving to another facility, so that leaves the suite open. And CASA director, Angela Boyd, had reached out to me. Obviously, those two suites that the current suite that they occupy, CASA does with their lease, the Merriman House suite that they were in. Those two suites adjoin one another. CASA is bringing a service of counseling with the recent school shooting in our community, so they're going to be providing counseling for the kids, and they are requesting that we add that suite to their lease. I'm just going to read Angela's email real quick so that people understand what CASA is. CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate. CASA volunteers are community members just like you who are appointed by judges to watch over and advocate for abused and neglected children. Volunteers stay with each case until it is closed and the child is placed in a safe, permanent home. For many abused children, their CASA will be the one constant adult the child knows as they navigate through the court system, providing much-needed stability. Once appointed by the judge, CASA's research the case, review documents, interview people, and make a report to the court regarding what is the best interest of abused and neglected children in terms of services, placement, visitation, reunification, and permanency. CASA volunteers monitor the child's situation to ensure safety and basic needs are being met. Simply stated, CASA volunteers are changing lives one child at a time. When we actually went into this lease agreement last year, the Fiscal Court agreed to give CASA a place in the courthouse for rent-free. I can tell you that speaking with them, they've increased their volunteer base. Obviously, they're still receptive to getting any more volunteers, so if there's anybody out there that is listening to this that would want to volunteer their time to help CASA, Angela Boyd here at the courthouse would be that point of contact. But their services has grown. I know social services utilizes that suite, and now they're going to be providing counseling. So is there any discussion as far as adding, I think it's suite 208 to their lease?
I'd move that we do so.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And then under correspondence, Marcella's Kitchen. Marcella's Kitchen had contacted me. Some of you may be aware they're trying to, they're doing $1 million drive. They have Smile Amazon to where you can go on to Amazon. If you purchase anything from Amazon, you can purchase it through Smile Amazon. And I think some of the other organizations in our community are already doing this. But if you purchase from Amazon, I think you get 5 cents will be donated to Marcella's Kitchen. So you can actually specifically pick out a charitable organization in your community if you do buy off Amazon. So we'll upload that information to the webpage so that people can see that if they want to participate and help donate. Under correspondence, Marsh County Arts Commission, we met July 10th with the nonprofit groups here in the courthouse with Dr. Weber and Dr. Long and Tony Watkins. It was a great turnout. There were some even nonprofits that participated that aren't receiving monies from the Fiscal Court, but the presentation was good. It was well received, and this is the letter from the Marsh County Arts Commission. Judge Neal, Deputy Judge Warning, and Commissioners, on behalf of the Marsh County Arts Commission, please allow me to express the appreciation of our Board of Directors for your recognition of the positive value provided to our community by the life enrichment programs and activities administered by the Arts Commission. We pledge to you that we will be responsible stewards of these funds and that they will be used as intended. We ask for your continuing financial support as we work to seek the additional funding that will be required to help provide the professional staff that will allow us to expand enrichment activities for all citizens in our community. As always, you are invited to stop by the center during our hours of operation, and we welcome your questions and suggestions at any time. With kindest personal regards, George Milam. There were, out of the, I believe, 11 organizations. 4 actually received their check. The rest of them wanted to redefine their reports or applications based off of the information that was shared that day. So I just want to make that known that the organizations were very receptive, and there was some great information that was shared with them to help them in definite times where money is tight for these organizations. I was contacted under correspondence, letter of support for Stephen Alexander. I was contacted by Stephen and asked if the court would give a letter of support. He submitted an application for the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet for access to 641 bypass on a piece of property that he has that's out there by the health department. It is in the county. I know initially we had looked at it to see if it was in the city, but it is in the county. But with his application, he's wanting to know if we would submit a letter of support. We drafted a letter. It reads, support of entrance for commercial property located on Highway 641 bypass. To whom it may concern, this letter is in support of the proposed entrance for commercial property located on the 641 bypass. It is the Marshall County Fiscal Court's position that this entrance would make the location much more accessible to the general public. With the completion of I-69 corridor nearing, the traffic volume through this area will likely increase, having a much more accessible entrance as the one proposed off of 641 bypass will be beneficial to the customers of this property. He's submitting that application, and I believe he needs that as soon as possible, so that's his request. That's the letter. Is there any questions as far as support?
Motion to approve support for the commercial property.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll get that out to him. Also under correspondence, the PAC row for the metal detectors. We met some time ago in the PAC row meeting, and the board actually approved portable walk-through metal detectors to the Fiscal Court, Marshall County Fiscal Court, for the school. And I got correspondence from the school that they would like to have those metal detectors. So since the Fiscal Court has taken award of those metal detectors, I'd like the Fiscal Court to move on a motion to give these metal detectors to the high school.
So moved, Judge.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And we'll meet tomorrow. I've already contacted Scott Darnold to make arrangements to how we can pick those up and get those out there to the school. Under old business, approve the minutes, July 3rd meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Building inspector's contract. We tabled this. You should have a copy of it. This is the new contract that's been written up. Are there any questions regarding it? And this is the building inspector agreement with Randy Duke.
Randy's,
He signed it.
he signed off on it? Okay. Motion to approve the new agreement.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Let's see, under old business, ordinance 2018-09, amendment to ordinance 2015-05, the ABC, second reading. Do we got to do a public hearing for that as well? So we can do that the same on the 7th? Okay. Or second reading. So we'll do that second reading on August 7th, same time. Okay, let me back up. Since the last one we discussed, we set to go into recess and then call a public hearing. We just need to announce that we're going to have the second reading. Okay, so, Bob, I think when we were discussing that earlier, as far as having it on the 7th and recess and going into a public hearing like we would do for a road review, that's not going to take place, so we'll just do the second reading on the 7th. Okay. Under old business, the rebid of the 3/4 ton or half-ton trucks for the animal control. I spoke with Parkway, spoke with Kevin, and they can fulfill one of the vehicles. The other one, the manufacturer said that they weren't going to be building the vehicle. There wasn't a year put on it in the bid, but they can't meet that requirement. So we have the option to rebid the vehicle. Did you find, you didn't find a state contract?
No, I'm still, so I contacted who holds the state contract for half-ton trucks, and they still haven't gotten the price released yet. So I'm just waiting for them to do that. But I think either way, either you can wait for that to be released or approved to go ahead and advertise for another half-ton truck for animal control.
So that's the position that we're in. We had requested 2, but they can only fulfill 1. I think yeah, said it was the manufacturer. Well, yeah, re-advertise. I think we looked at the other bid that was in place, and I think it was $3,000 more.
Yeah.
You did have 2 bids.
Yeah.
We awarded Parkway, but they can only meet the one vehicle. It was something about it because it was a half-ton truck.
A half-ton, single cab, regular bed, I don't know.
They got plenty of 3/4 tons, but, so it's whatever the court wishes.
They can't look around all over the country and get one driven in here?
We tried that too.
We tried that.
It was
too.
more expensive.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I don't know, I guess, I don't know how quickly they need, I mean, they're probably.
He said that if we rebid, we're talking a couple of months.
I think the one that Parkway can get won't be here till September.
Yeah.
It's a 3/4 ton.
No, it's a half-ton.
No, it's a half-ton.
It would meet, but we've got another one
So
on,
we've got
uh,
one that
bid for-
they need one more.
Yeah.
we've got one, the second bid was
Right.
3,000 more,
Right.
but it meets the criteria.
Yeah.
And they can get it now.
I'd have to confirm that. I don't know now that it's been, I don't know, how long ago was that? I don't know if that bid's still good.
Okay, well, we need to find, I guess we need to find that out, and
They've been in need of vehicles for a long, long time. This is not all of a sudden.
now that we've bid, though, if there's something on the books that we've bid this, can't we negotiate now for possibly potentially a better price?
Yeah, I talked to another
we-
dealership in the county, and he found one that he could get that was, it was more expensive than the 2 bids that were given, but it was available right now. But I told him after we talked, I think we said we needed to rebid it because it was a different amount. So I don't know how long it's been since that bid was open.
I don't know, I thought since we had bid, and now that we'd had open bids, that we could possibly just negotiate with the dealers around, see if we can just find one that meets our criteria,
Why wouldn't we just rebid it?
because it'll take so long.
Negotiate with your bidders, but then you can't,
Can't negotiate just with anyone?
unless it came back and
It was June 5th.
Not an emergency situation.
I don't guess it is.
They've had this problem for years. They'll have one vehicle.
Well, I mean,
But-
whatever we can rebid then.
So the
No.
bid,
When are you gonna rebid, though?
Just one halftime.
the bid expired July 7th. The other thing is that the rescue squad's vehicle went down. The intent was, once we replace the animal control, we give it, yeah.
Unless you want to buy a new one for it.
So it's, I mean, it's at the wishes of what the fiscal court wants. Do we want to do another rebid for the same vehicle? Do we want to look for? I mean,
I don't know if we can look.
You mean, look, how,
Yeah, just- Now that we've bid it,
well, you've got it, but you've got a backup bid. too.
Expired
It's
July.
expired.
Yeah, the bids have expired.
I think cleaner would be
just
just to rebid
rebid,
it.
just rebid, then
Just-
I'd move it, we rebid for that half-ton truck.
Zero.
But they're gonna get a truck, one,
In September.
Yes.
and then, but we're gonna,
But then
then
this
we'll
will be-
rebid for the second. Okay, yeah, that'll be my motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Can't believe
Business.
the Marshall County Fiscal Court has stymied the automobile manufacturers of this country with
There
the
must
order.
be good sales, I guess. They must have them all purchased.
I didn't understand it.
Yeah. New business, the annexation agreement, Southwest One. Morning, sir.
Hi, folks. Thanks for having me, Judge. I know the city and other community partners involved in this are excited to be moving forward with this project. The annexation agreement that I've drafted and that the city has already approved does a couple of things. First of all, to annex property into the city the most simplistic way, we have to have the consent of the property owners. So what this agreement does is that it says once the option is exercised and the fiscal court actually becomes the title owner to the property, agreement effectively is that consent. And it gives the city the obligation to expeditiously move forward with the annexation process. Now, in conjunction with that, after talking with Josh and a few other folks about developing this as an industrial park, the annexation of property into the city comes in as an R1, a residential zoned property. But there is a procedure to modify the zone prior to or in conjunction with the annexation. So this agreement also is a request by the what would be the potential owner of the property to rezone the property as a heavy industrial district to allow the development of manufacturers or anything that falls within that zoning classification on this property. Now, it further gives the city of Benton the obligation to provide utilities to be able to service any tenants out there, with the exception that this is currently a piece of property that's serviced by West Kentucky Rural Electric. And so since they have the rights to that, that's without of the city, that's outside of the city's jurisdiction to provide electrical services. But as far as gas, wastewater, and water service, the city has the obligation then of providing those utilities to be able to service that within our means and within our capabilities, and hopefully working with the tenants to figure out what's necessary for them to be able to operate out there. I'd love to answer any questions or explain this any further, but
I've got one, if you can, Brian. The discussion is the actual ownership. You know, I feel the intent would be the IDA to own it. Would there be changes in this to reflect that?
well, that depends on when the IDA becomes the owner of the property. I did not include in this agreement any sort of
Okay.
anti-assignment. So if the option is assigned to the IDA, then this agreement could also be assigned without anybody's, city doesn't have to reapprove that or anything else. It can just be automatically transferred. Now, if the fiscal court exercises the option, then in that situation, if you become the owner of the property and then later transfer it to the IDA, this agreement, well, just the law states that the city's going to annex and zone the property. That has to be a request from the owner of the property. So if the fiscal court's going to own it long enough to go through that process, then you can transfer it, and it's already been done. If you want to transfer it before this process, then we'd have to transfer this agreement as well, or get a new get a new request for the zoning and annexation from the owners.
Now, okay, so now I got two questions. The actual option, would we have to go back if the intent's for the IDA to actually have ownership, would we have to go back and redo the option with the landowner, or can we move forward with the current option and draft this to where it all meets as far as the ownership giving consent?
Well, I think that's up to the court as to whether or not you all
Sure.
intend to be the primary owner or the initial owner and then transfer it. Jeff, you may be able to speak to the option agreement itself. I'm not sure about any sort of assignment provisions in that, whether that requires the mutual consent of the parties or to transfer the option. But since the option is currently owned and held by the fiscal court, this agreement has to reflect that.
Sure.
So anything that's done with the option, I would assume and would hope that this agreement would be in conjunction with that.
And now the second question of that would be the time. What time are we looking at?
So the process for annexation is, it is an annexation ordinance, but there's not necessarily public hearing that's required because it's an annexation by consent. So within 2 readings of the ordinance, it's deemed, in publication, it's deemed to be annexed. Now the planning and zoning process, that requires a public hearing, and there's a specific time period on that. Planning and zoning is aware of this. In fact, they've already signed a resolution in support of this process and agreeing to promptly go through their steps. So once the Planning and Zoning Board sets a public hearing, it has to be advertised. It can be advertised, I believe, no less than 14 days or no more than 21 days before the public hearing is held. Then there'll be findings and an opportunity for people to speak at that public hearing, and then the Planning and Zoning Board can, after that, make a recommendation to the City Council, which ultimately has the approval authority of changing the zoning and making a zoning map amendment based on the Commissioner's recommendation.
Okay. And I think we need to maybe have some discussion on this as far as the ownership. I know, as we heard this morning from Dennis Smith, that's one of the things. I know I actually support the IDA to have ownership. I think it's better for them to have, just like we did with the City County Industrial Authority. The ownership was given to the City County Industrial Authority to manage. I don't think the Fiscal Court would have time to manage the industrial site. So, but I think we need to discuss that at least today to get an idea from the Fiscal Court what their opinions are, because obviously there's time associated with this if we do choose to keep the ownership or move it under IDA.
I have no problem with it being in the industrial park or the IDA having ownership of the park. I think it'll probably be cleaner all the way around. They're going to be managing the property.
Yeah, I know one of the discussions we had as far as like putting the bids, say for the financing, they wouldn't have to come to the Fiscal Court. We saw this morning with the Sanitation District how they come to us. A lot of that can be done with the IDA.
Sure.
And we discussed that back when we first had the meeting with the IDA, that the intent is for the annexation. So
right.
the annexation is not an issue. I think it's just how we draft this. And I know how it's drafted now is because the options with the Fiscal Court.
Right.
But I think we're in a position where the TVA Invest Prep's going to be coming due here in a couple of weeks. But I think we need to have a discussion as far as if we would move to have the IDA take ownership of that.
And Judge,
Sure,
if
go
I
ahead.
can ask Josh
Yeah.
about the grant applications, in particular the Invest Prep program. I mean, I know this, I don't represent you all or
Sure.
anything, but I would want to make sure that whoever the applicant is for that program is the party to the option and the annexation, whether that could be a hiccup with this.
Yeah, so the application is actually through the fiscal court, and I think that the way that this agreement is drawn up and the option is drawn up, that it's a pretty fluid movement one way or the other. So I think that if we kept everything the same right now and then cross that bridge when we find out, on the funding and how we want to put that, it sounds like we could do all this pretty relatively quickly.
Yes.
So
It sounds like we got options. I think we just need to figure out which option we need to start down.
And Judge, I anticipate us finding out about TVA Invest Prep within the next couple of weeks,
Yes.
maybe even this week. But, that'll give us a starting point to know whether we got funding, and then where, how to move forward from that point. Does that answer your?
Okay.
We can leave it as, us or the county can continue to own the options as of now, and then we can move on this as needed. Okay.
I would think maybe because of the way things stand in the grant applications, correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe the simplest way would be to execute this agreement with the parties as attached, and then if and when it's necessary, whenever you all decide to assign those rights to the IDA, then that can be your all's decision. The city remains obligated regardless of who the second party to this contract is, because it can be assigned without our consent.
Okay.
And that should be a fairly straightforward process, instead of modifying the option and transferring that, then modifying this agreement.
And just for record's sake, this does not affect the current owners in any way.
No. One of the first provisions is this is only effective upon the exercise of the option. The current owners aren't a party to this and aren't affected by this. It only becomes effective when ownership changes hands.
Okay. I think that answers my question. What does the court wish to do? I mean, we've got this drafted. He's outlined what we can do today and move forward and make those changes if we wish to pass it over to the IDA. So would there be a motion to accept this annexation agreement?
I'd make that motion.
Second that.
We'll go for Commissioner Gold, Commissioner Boland, Commissioner Cock. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And if I can be a resource to anyone as far as the process for annexation and zoning, please feel free to reach out to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Brian.
Thanks, Zach.
Let's see, resolution on Asian carp. As we know, there's a push to get support within federal support. Several judge executives and fiscal courts are actually doing resolutions. I'm just going to read this one here for Marshall County, Kentucky Fiscal Court, resolution number 2018-02. Whereas fishing is a multi-billion-dollar industry in Kentucky, providing an estimated $1.2 billion in revenues to the Western Kentucky economy alone. And whereas Kentucky Lake and Lake Barkley are popular fishing destinations that attract both commercial and recreational fishing, and in so doing promotes the tourism industry in Kentucky. And whereas Asian carp have invaded Kentucky and Barkley lakes, thereby placing our fishing and tourism industries in jeopardy. And whereas state officials in Kentucky and Tennessee are in desperate need of additional and federal resources to combat this crisis. Now, therefore, be it resolved as follows, that the Marshall County Fiscal Court is appreciative of the efforts made by Senator McConnell and Congressman Comer for being committed to creating a local, state, and federal partnership to protect the waterways of Western Kentucky. That Marshall County Fiscal Court encourages the Kentucky Congressional Delegation to support substantial and additional federal financial funding to combat this looming crisis. Adopted at a regular meeting at Marshall County Fiscal Court held on the 17th day of July 2018, a quorum present and voting. Marshall County Fiscal Court. This resolution will be sent along with other resolutions to Washington to show support for funding for this Asian carp epidemic. So I don't think that locally we're going to be able to resolve the Asian carp issue. I think it's going to be a collective effort locally all the way up to the state and federal level. And I think there's individuals putting forth their effort both at the federal and state level. So I think locally we need to participate.
I'd move that we adopt a resolution, Judge.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And in addition,
Motion
I just
carries.
returned from NACO. I spoke to you about that. I would like to at least work on possibly getting this resolution, a similar resolution that would include all inland waterways adopted by NACO, National Association of Counties. there is a precedent. I've already found one where they have resolved to work with our congressional leaders to control a lanternfly on the Atlantic coast. So there's precedent for that. So I'm hopeful that we could get this into our national associated counties so that they would lobby for this at the congressional level.
And for those that don't know, Bob is actually a member of NACO board. I think they just had the conference.
National conference.
In Nashville. And Kentucky Judge Executive
Yes, sir. Gary Moore.
Gary Moore is the second vice president. So.
Yeah, we got Judge Moore was elected second vice president in the third round of voting, and by a slight margin, but he will be the first Kentucky president in 3 years, in 35 years.
Great.
So Judge Moore is a very good man, and will do well.
What was the difference in votes? 30 votes?
31. 31 votes.
And Commissioner Gold was present with the Hawaiian delegation who committed all 29 of their votes. Quite an
For all three rounds.
Well, nowhere in there was there a formal declaration of war on carp. What the agenda says.
Formal.
We want war in there.
Yeah. I don't think that won't be hard to pass, so I think.
My nephew shoots them.
Yeah. Under new business, the E911 title changes for John Townsend and Sheila Day. The title change is going to be for John Townsend, instead of a dispatcher, it'll be assistant director. Effective date of personnel action is July 18th, tomorrow. Title change to assist director. And then for Sheila, title change from dispatcher to dispatcher supervisor as a full-time, July 18th, tomorrow. Title change to dispatcher supervisor. I think that's something that has been worked on for some time. I see LaDonna and Sheila here, so I think that's great to establish that leadership. And I know that you got two good ones to carry out those duties, so congratulations. AOC, under new business, AOC none. Oh, thank you, Des. We need a motion to accept those two changes.
Title changes. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. AOC non-recurring project, you want to fill us in on that?
Yeah, this is for generator maintenance for the judicial building generator. And I think you have those numbers in front of you, just giving judge authorization to sign that non-recurring project agreement with those associated numbers.
Motion to approve the changes to the AOC agreement.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The agenda that was sent out had the road department tractor on it under new business, but it's not on the agenda. So I asked Wendy to get some specs on the tractor that we have. Can you update us on the specs on the tractor?
2001 Case MX100. It's got a cab and a Motrim mower on it. It's got 5,600 hours on it. We haven't used it. We've kept it for our spare tractor, but we haven't used it in 2 years.
The request from the refuse, obviously the road department's priority is to mow right-of-ways. But there's the pond down there at the refuse that the banks need to be taken care of. It takes about a half a day for the road department to do it. This piece of equipment, if the court were to just move that piece of equipment over to the refuse, then they can do that on their time, and that would keep the road department mowing right-of-ways.
I actually thought we gave them one. We never did give it to them. We just started mowing then.
They don't.
I knew they needed one with a boom, and I was thinking at one point we actually transferred one over there. Okay. No,
Make sure that, I'd make a motion that we do transfer that.
yeah, second.
All those
Well,
in favor
you-
say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
It'll run, won't it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it runs good. We couldn't believe that we thought the battery would be dead, but it cranked right up, so.
Okay, good.
The mechanics have looked over it and everything.
How many hours to have on it?
5,600.
I think the
Well, what they're gonna do.
value of it was at 8,000, 9,000. What was the
Trade-in value on it was 10 to
10
12,000.
to 12?
But, so, I just went off of that because it was the lowest that you could look up.
Okay.
Anyway, that'll be fine. Or when they want to then.
Yes. Under new business, the PAC Road grant application for Southwest One. This is the application that's being submitted to Southwest One, or to PAC Road. We meet tomorrow in Paducah for our board meeting, and this will be presented. Again, PAC Road, we moved dollars for the 5 counties identified for PAC Road for economic development projects. So this one falls under that economic development project, and we're getting those dollars to those communities. So this is a $200,000 application, and those monies will go towards the land acquisition of Southwest One. So I just wanted to show you the application that's going to be presented tomorrow. I would say next court meeting I should have follow-up as far as how that application turns out. And just to add to that, Josh has done a good job putting all these applications together. I think we've got several as far as our partners with partnerships for these dollars. The other application is the para-grant application, the one we call the PRP program. That's going to be submitted to the PAD. So you can see there, it's about $104,061. Those dollars will be committed, if approved, to the Southwest One land acquisition.
Well, that's, exactly how we're supposed to do it. Because this is going to benefit not only Marshall County, but this whole region.
That's right.
When this takes off, it's going to be a benefit all the way around.
That's right. And the other counties have, there's been some other counties that have, out of those 5, that have actually request dollars, and there's some announcements coming up. So it really is a regional benefit.
It is, Judge, and I appreciate you all being so great to work with on this project. We've still got some ways to go. I will say this, next week there will be 2 announcements in our region for projects, one in Murray with the automotive supplier project, which will create 120 jobs, and that's in Murray West Industrial Park. And also in Graves County, they'll have an announcement in their industrial park at Hickory Park for a project. And so, again, we're seeing a lot of activity, and I'm just really excited to be able to compete for those projects. So thank you all for your support.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Josh. We had, obviously, we're gonna lose Rita to retirement. She's been here for a long time. We all love Rita, but she's retiring at the end of the year. So we had put out job requests to replace her. We had 50.
Over 50 applied for it. We had 46 interviews scheduled and 12 actually interviewed.
Yeah. So out of those 12 that showed up to interview, the courthouse, or the courthouse janitor, and that's for this building, the name's not in here.
It's Christina Boland.
Christina Boland. And I'm sorry, I'm looking at it right here. I'm looking at the wrong document. For the janitor's position, Christina Boland, be appointment full-time at $11.83 an hour starting tomorrow. And that would be to replace Rita. She's actually, can you give us, when is she actually retiring, Rita?
So her retirement will run all the way through the end of the year, but she the first day that we'll need a full-time worker is the 6th of August. So we put the hire date for tomorrow if you guys do approve the hire, so that she could be trained and get caught up to speed when Rita leaves.
Motion to approve the new hire.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Under new business, the FY 2018 vendor listing, you wanted to discuss that?
I've not done a vendor listing before. The auditors have asked for it. It's not required, but since they had asked for it, I thought I would do one. So this just generates out of the fiscal year what we have spent with different vendors. So this is just informational. I don't know that it needs approval since all the bills have already been approved to be paid.
And this will be uploaded on our webpage so that if anybody at home wants to pull up and see the actual dollars spent, it'll be available for review. Treasurer's report.
As of June 30th, 2018, general fund had a book balance of $2,320,019. Road fund, $1,055,966.59. Jail fund, $396,181.35. Grant fund, 0. 911 fund, $160,398.71. Occupational tax administrator, $3,162,799.38. Veterans van fund, 0. ABC fund, $163,448.69. Building inspection fund, $67,288.94. Total reporting funds is $7,326,083.85.
We can, I'm looking at this report. I think the court moved to remove the Veterans Van Fund.
Yes.
Okay, we need to remove that.
Motion to accept the treasurer's report subject to audit.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Treasurer's quarterly report.
The quarterly report reflects the same numbers as given in the treasurer's report.
Motion to accept the quarterly report subject to audit.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Treasurer's settlement.
The treasurer settlement reflects the same numbers as well. It goes through all of your receipts and then gives your beginning balance and transfers and end of year balance, reflecting those same numbers.
Motion to accept the treasurer's settlement subject to audit.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Encumbrance report.
There are $3,522.22 in general fund encumbrances for June 30th, 2018. Road fund had $29,187.19, and jail fund $9,646.92 for total encumbrance balance of $42,356.33.
Motion to approve the encumbrance report subject to audit.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Appropriations transfer.
I have two transfers, one moving $1,600 from economic development office supplies to economic development travel. That's to cover expenses for the county development authority insurance policy. And then I'm moving $7,200 from general fund reserves for the building maintenance lease agreement. Those funds will be amended in as received back from CAECO during the rental period. But in the meantime, we have to cover those expenditures.
Motion to approve the appropriation transfers.
Second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Approve payment of the bills.
Motion to pay the bills, Judge.
Second that.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Judge.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next fiscal court meeting will be August 7th.